Should I invite Samantha?
Yeah. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Mike, your co-host of Saturday Morning Multifamily Unplugged, and we are glad that you are here today. Boy, today you are in for a treat, that's for sure. I've been thinking about this show all week, and then Anna, my assistant, got the flyer out, and it really made me think about the time I had an opportunity to spend with our guest today. You are in for a treat, that's for sure. I've been thinking about this technology. Geez, here we go. All right, there we go. All right. My name's Mike. I'm with My Core Intentions. Today is brought to you by My Core Intentions and my co-host Moose, your focus guy. Our sponsor for today's show is the 4-day underwriting challenge. So here's what I've been telling people. If you think that you have what it takes to be a rock star real estate investor or a rock star underwriter, take the 4-day challenge. People have said, what is it all about? I'm going to tell you, it is 4 days of intense underwriting practice and what needs to be done to build your multifamily or real estate investing portfolio. Hey, I'm glad that you're here today. So what I'd like to do is just ask you and remind you again, if you would please go to social media right now, that you would go like us and love us wherever you hang out on social media, whether that's LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter. Any one of us this morning, Moose, Joe Delagrave, myself, either by our companies or us personally, go like us, love us, follow us, subscribe. And we are bringing you continual relevant content every day. So glad that you're here this morning. Okay, now that I've stalled enough and we've got some people logging on. Good morning, Carl. What's up?
How you doing, Mike?
Good.
Looking forward to today's show. Very much interested in hearing Joe's story and just having a great conversation today. So thanks for putting it all together.
Yeah. I know you're out shuffling kids around this morning. Good for you. And you're out on Clubhouse. So I just tell everybody this morning, we are live on Zoom. We are live on Facebook and we are live on Clubhouse. So wherever, you get your social media fix, you'll find us because we'll push this out somewhere later on. So, hey, let me quit goofing around here. Let me get right into it. Hey, Joe, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Mike. Yeah. Moose, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
How's it been going?
Not too bad. It's been, for me, the last about 8 weeks has been just kind of a breathing period after the Paralympics and that whole deal there. And and I hear you on carting kids around, Moose. That's like a full-time job. I joke that we just got a new vehicle and now I'm the proud owner of 2 minivans. That's how much carting around we do. It's a minivan mafia thing going on for real.
Yeah, for sure. So Joe, I think I had you on Insider Secrets, my multifamily podcast, or one of my multifamily podcasts. What, maybe 2 months ago?
I think probably a couple weeks after the Paralympics. So I think in September there. So yeah.
And it was very moving. And here's what I've been telling people, tune in, buckle up, sit down, go wake somebody up, because people aren't going to want to miss this today. If you are on Clubhouse, if you're on Facebook, if you're going to join us on Zoom, get here because you're not going to want to miss 1 minute of this episode here today, because I was moved beyond moved when I interviewed Joe. And, Moose, you've got it easy today. You're not on screen, so if you start crying, you can just shut off. And opposite of me, but Joe's got a story that'll rattle all our cages. So if you're somebody who needs a little inspiration or a little love this morning, this is the place to be. We're going to be able to deliver both of those to you. And Joe, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell everybody who you are, where you're from, what you currently are doing, and then we'll get into your backstory a little bit.
Yeah. So currently I just finished up with my 13th consecutive season on the national team for wheelchair rugby, wheelchair user. We'll get into that, but a captain for 8 of those years, been to 2 Paralympics, trained for 3 of them. I was an alternate for one of them. And so that's been my full-time gig for almost a decade and a half. And then I also do keynote speaking. I've been a keynote speaker for about 3 years now, and absolutely love to share my story, whether it's with one person, two people, a group of 5,000, it doesn't matter. I think for me, it's really moving from my passion of sports into my purpose of being able to share my story in hopes that people will look in the mirror to get personal responsibility and inspiration down to be able to make a choice in their circumstances or obstacles.
So where do you live right now, Joe?
I live in Holman, Wisconsin. My wife, April, and then we have 3 kids that are 10, 8, and 6. Well, my 9-year-old will be 10 soon enough, but yeah, about 2 years apart, and all those 2 boys and a girl. And yeah, good old Midwest, living here in Holman, Wisconsin.
And not only do you live in home in Wisconsin, but your kids play all kinds of sports, and you get to drive them around all week long from event to event. So,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah, absolutely.
so Joe, let's dive into your story. Why don't you tell people, about your history, your backstory, how you wound up where you're at here today?
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up about 2 hours south of Holman, Wisconsin, in a little river town called Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. It's about 5,000 people in it, and right on the border of the Mississippi River that borders Iowa and Wisconsin. And so grew up playing all kinds of different sports. Always loved sports, always loved that team environment. Um, and that was kind of the whole dream for me, is to be able to play a college sport, get an education, go to school. And that was the whole dream. And so that was the goal in high school, and just loved being a part of things. I was always doing something, and did plays and musicals as well. I would love to sing and choir, and kind of what was that jock into theater thing too. Zac Efron just was better looking and had better abs apparently. So he made it and I didn't. But no, it's growing up, it's kind of every kid's dream to be able to play that college sport. So that was kind of growing up for me, and what I was into and loved to do.
Yeah. So you played football all through growing up, high school, even beyond that, right? And then did we get into college?
Yeah, so I ended up getting a scholarship to play at Division II school called Winona State University. Had phenomenal position coaches. Our head coach, Tom Sawyer, he is retiring this year, been there for 25 years and really changed hundreds and hundreds of young men's lives through his mentorship. And so really lucked out there. But yeah, played as a true freshman, ended up doing pretty well in fall camp, got to play as a true freshman. And that was like the dream. That was the goal. That was living life at 19, 18, 19 years old. I'm thinking, this is it. This is exactly what I wanted to do. I have no idea what I'm doing after this. The evidence of me changing my major probably 4 times or something like that. But for me, that was the goal, and I was living it, and I loved being a part of that football team at Winona.
Yeah.
Joe, can I jump in real quick? Mike, I think you know this. So I played hockey all my life, Joe. I'm from Cleveland, and I played a couple years in the USHL for Dubuque and Waterloo, and then I went to play Division II up in upstate New York. So I totally get where you're coming from, because that was it. I mean, that's all I did when I was a young kid. Teenagers, that's all I wanted to do is just play hockey. And I wasn't big enough to go to the NHL. I could skate well enough, but I wasn't big enough. So my dad said, you could go Division I and sit the bench, or you can go Division II and play. And I said, I'm going to go play. Yeah. So I totally get it. And, I think there's some other similarities in our stories too, but please continue, because I'm very interested in, how you ended up, on the wheelchair rugby team. That's incredible.
Let me reset the room real quick. And Carl is being modest, because Carl was he was the disciplinary guy on the hockey team, so he could have went to the NHL because he just pulverized people as soon as he dropped his gloves off. So, hey, we're live this morning on Zoom and Facebook and Clubhouse with Joe Delagrave. the captain of the Paralympics rugby team or lacrosse team. And Joe is telling his story. If you are on Clubhouse or Facebook, just buckle up, sit down. If you have questions or comments on Clubhouse, sorry. Facebook, you can throw comments into chat or questions into chat, but just buckle up because we're going to go for a ride here. So, Joe, what happened? So you're playing football and you're at Winona State. Oh, here's what I was going to say, Winona State. Here's my memories of Winona State. So I graduated high school in northwest suburbs of Chicago, and
Yeah.
my best friend went to Winona State, and I drove there like every 2 weeks. And we sat up in the bluffs
Yeah.
and watched the Eagles fly by as we were, doing some things we probably shouldn't have been doing back then. But
Yeah. Yeah.
young kids hanging out, So
Yeah.
that's my memory of Winona State, though.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's an absolute beautiful area. A lot of Eagles up there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how I got from being a college football player to a wheelchair rugby player. Obviously I wasn't in a wheelchair playing football. And so in between my freshman and sophomore years, ended up, the freshman year was really a dream. Like it was one of the best seasons that Winona State has had in their history. And I was a third string tight end, but I went on some tight end packages and special teams and everything like that. So wasn't starting tight end, but that was the dream for the next year. I was playing behind a fifth year senior and really learned a lot from him, Alan Hartung, and that was the next step. So spring ball came around and, put my head down. I got in the weight room that year, ended up gaining about 20 pounds of good weight, and was excited for that next fall camp and season. And so I went back to Prairie du Chien for my summer to train and also, work and all that. And in the summers in Prairie, you're on the river on the weekends. That's pretty much what everyone does. And whether that's just tooling around, boating or fishing or kneeboarding, or, you got tubers, it's just, it's a great time in the summer. Kind of a recreational type person's dream of where the Wisconsin River meets the Mississippi River and the bluffs, and very scenic and a hunter's paradise as well, fisher's paradise. And so I'm back there that summer, and I'm working for the city and working at Pizza Hut and then working out. And so July 10th, 2004 rolls around. My two best friends, Kyle and Adam, were back in town as well. Kyle went to Marquette University and came back to work that summer. My other best friend, Adam, went to St. Cloud State and came back for the summer as well. And we grew up on the same street together, Ohio Street and little Prairie du Chien. And so we every weekend we jump on the river with Kyle's old grandpa's 35 horsepower boat. I mean, to us, it was like a yacht, though. Like, it was just awesome. It was, just so much fun. But little boat there, and I'm sitting on the boat, hands behind my head. And kind of what I remember with this is the feeling of invincibility when I look back at 19 years old. And there's so many different choices and forks in the road that who you going to be with, and what major do you have, what college you going to, and where are you going to live after this, and there's so much daydreaming, and but you also feel invincible, like oh, this is the best, and you're on top of the world. And
so I get this, right?
Yeah.
I get this. We're 18, 19 years old. We're hanging out with our best friends. We're spending the summer together. We're having the best year of our life. We got into college. We're going to play college ball. And, you just feel like you're one of those kids that, life's going to go on forever. You're invincible. Nothing can happen. Things are going to be great, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're all there at that point. When we look back, and no matter where our life's taking us, you look back at that point and go, gosh, life's so easy at that age. But I'm leaned back, my hands behind my head. I'm looking out, watching Adam kneeboard facing the back of the boat, and Kyle's driving, and we're in a back slough of the Mississippi River. In Prairie, there's a lot of different sloughs, which just are just little back channels of the Mississippi, a lot calmer, than the main channels of the Mississippi, and a lot less traffic. And so it was easier to knee board. And so we're back there, and you never know how deep or shallow the water is. And Kyle accidentally hits the bottom of the river. I fly backwards. The chair breaks on the boat, the little pole breaks. I fly backwards, hit my head on the front of the boat, inside the boat, and break my neck instantly at C6 and 7. Blacked out and wake up, and Kyle and Adam are looking down on me. There's tears rolling down their face. I'm in excruciating pain for my head injury. My head had split open, and they are just asking me all these questions about, can you move? Can you feel your legs? Can you touch your legs? Can you move your leg at all? And they knew to stabilize me, but everything's kind of happening at this point, going like, what's it going to look like? And so they're calling 911, and the rescue boat comes, and I'm still in excruciating pain. But I just remember, waking up, rescue boat to the ambulance to the local hospital. Adam's mom's a nurse there. She's retiring this December, 42 years there. She's greeting me, my family doctor, and everyone just, there's the chaos of like triage is happening, and all this going like, something's wrong. But I didn't know the gravity of the situation yet.
And you're pretty coherent. And I just want to back up for a minute, right? So this is a part of the river you guys have been down before, right? So this wasn't new to you. You're not speeding. You're not drinking and partying. He's paying attention, driving the boat, and boom, in a split second, right?
Yeah. And that's where the crazy thing is, you look back, like I think all of us grow up where at some point our moms or whoever's in the house is saying like, hey, don't do that, you're going to break your neck. Like, oh, not do that. Like what? And there's plenty of things in life that you do where you go and like, yeah, I shouldn't have been doing that, or that's what I should have broke. Like and at this moment, there's no drinking, there's no drugs involved. We're not doing anything crazy on the river, and we've been back in that slough hundreds of times. And for some reason that happened. And and kind of crazy, where I'm going, what's going to happen next? They're talking about they're talking about me breaking my neck and going to the local hospital. They had to med flight me and surgery and whatnot. But in the back of my head at that point, I'm still thinking Joe can overcome this, or Joe, it's a broken bone. Like I'll power my way through it. I think a lot of times as men, when something bad happens, our masculinity instincts kind of, and a lot of times it's a good thing, but sometimes it's just like, we think we can do it ourselves. Like, I'm not going to tell anyone what's going on inside me or anything like that. And for me, I was thinking, oh, like I got a month until football. Maybe I'll start the season a little bit late, but I got to be back to foot. I'm not thinking paralysis. I'm not thinking wheelchair. I'm not thinking all these terms that they're throwing out, like spinal cord injury and incomplete quadriplegic, C6 and 7, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had no idea. And at the moment, I'm just going like, I've got to figure out a way to power through this and be able to do this.
Yeah. So let me just reset the room real quick. Hey, thanks for joining us this morning. We're Carl and I are with Joe Delagrave, who is the captain of the wheelchair team for the Olympic lacrosse team and
Rugby team, but
rugby, I'm sorry.
Yeah, all good.
And if you are joining us live on Facebook, buckle up. We're just getting into the good stuff. And if you're on Clubhouse, sorry that you won't be able to reach out to us this morning. But normally we're here, Multifamily Unplugged, talking about multifamily. But today we're talking a little bit about mindset and how your life can change in a split second and what you might be able to do to recover from that. So, Joe, so here you are laying in the hospital. They're throwing out all these terms that you're going to be in a wheelchair, that you're paraplegic, your 6 and 7 is broke, spinal cord injury, and you're saying, not me, man. I'm stronger than that. I'm getting up. I'm going back to football practice in 30 days. What happens?
Yeah. So, about 2 days after the injury, 2-3 days, when I kind of like remember doctors coming in the room and they're telling me, Joe, this is what happened. They throw all those terms out to me, and I'm going like, what are you talking about? And they're like, listen, my parents are in the room, I'm in the room. They're like, Joe, you're not going to be able to walk again. And when someone says that to you, you almost like laugh, like it's what are you talking about? You hear, what do you mean? And they say, hey, this is what happened with your spinal cord. This is what this means. The prognosis is not good. And I'm like, what do you like? Give me a percentage, man. Like they're like, hey, Joe, it's 3% chance you're going to walk again. And right away, there's a lot of feelings involved, obviously, but the biggest one is just shock. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm a man of faith. And I remember this verse that I had been wearing on a shirt 7 days before my accident on July 3rd, 2004. And it was that old Don Beebe House of Speed shirt that I had on as a cutoff shirt that our kicker had given me at a football game because I had forgotten my shirt underneath my pads. He was making fun of me about being slow. So he gave me this Don Beebe House of Speed shirt. I was a tight end, basically like, one Happy Meal away from being a tackle. And it was a big joke that I always ran great routes, but I wasn't fast at all. And and I'm like, I'm just going to keep it then. If you're going to make fun of me, I got the kicker making fun, like I'm going to keep it. And so a week before my accident, I'm wearing the shirt again. And I'm at a basketball camp helping out. And this coach is like, what's this verse on your shirt? And he said, and I'm like, I don't know, like, and he goes, oh, let me quote it for you. And it's trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways, acknowledge him and he'll direct your paths. And when I got that news from the doctor, and it might've been like a little bit before that, where I had talked to my mom and my sisters about that verse, and wow, that's kind of strange. And they had put it up on my hospital wall in a poster board type of thing, like, a little Etsy Pinterest like style thing. And I looked at that verse and I was just like, no, I was so angry and mad. Like, this isn't a story where, oh, like it's butterflies and rainbows, Disney. Like, I just made a choice and flipped the switch and I'm going to be this happy person in a wheelchair. Like, no, I was pissed off going from 6'6", 260 pounds, 19 years old, playing a sport that I loved, and my athletic identity ripped away, and told I'm not going to walk again. And then this verse is like, yeah, just trust God and he'll direct your path. Like, no. Like, I want to know what's going on. I want to understand this. I don't understand this. And I think a lot of times as men and probably women too, like, we want to do it ourselves. We have so much pride that it gets in the way of us saying, you know what, I can't do this by myself. I need a support group. I need faith. I need to be able to tell people about my feelings. And those first couple of weeks, I'm like, I'm gonna power through this. I don't need to trust God. I don't even understand why I'm doing, but I'm a power. I'm gonna do it Joe's way. I'm a big, rough, tough football player and 19, and I'm invincible still. And it was the 2 weeks of just being angry and being mad, and being stoic. And then at night, crying myself to sleep and feeling so depressed about the state that I was in, and feeling so alone with no one feeling what I'm feeling or understanding what I'm going through. And it was a dark, dark time.
Yeah. So, what's interesting, and Carl, I don't know if you have anything you want to jump in and say right now, but what's interesting is I think that in people's lives, these times show up, right? It's pretty drastic when you become paralyzed, but things happen, like you go to prison, like you lose a loved one, you prematurely, you wind up divorced, you lose a job, there's health, other issues, right? And your life can change like that. And what, Joe, what do you think separates you from somebody who just gives up? Because there's plenty of people that just give up. And what do you think makes that difference where, somebody says, hey, you know what? I'm not going to let this beat me.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust in the Lord with all my heart,
Yeah.
and, and I'm going to move forward. What do you think is that turning point?
I think there's three big factors in my life that have really helped me turn the corner there, where there was a pause in that. And number one is faith. There's a lot of times we don't like, there's a lot of times where life can get really crap. Like it can be bad. Like there, you just explained it. We get circumstances and obstacles in life that happen to us. And sometimes we create them by our bad choices, but sometimes like they happen outside of our control, and we're left there to pick up the pieces. And it's really easy in those moments to point the finger and play the blame game. A lot of times in sports, I hear kids all the time go, well, my coach doesn't like me, so I'm just going to quit. And what happens in those moments when you blame something else, well, you blame your spouse, you blame the cancer, you blame the disability, you blame the depression, you blame the disease, you're blaming things. And in that moment, you give that, whatever that is or who that is or what that is, you're giving that control, and you become rigid, you become paralyzed in that moment, because what you're doing is giving them the control, and now you don't got a choice. So you become rigid. It's rigidity, it's paralysis in that moment, because you're pointing the finger and blaming. Three things that I think really help. Number one is the faith, having strong faith and hope in something. I don't know how I could have gotten through this without it. Number two is a strong support system. Our circle of influence is strong. It is so important. When you have a bad circle of influence, you're going to probably go down some bad paths. When you have a good circle, like whatever circle of influence, your life's going to kind of be whatever. If you have a good circle of influence, people around you that are going to say, you know what, like, you're playing the blame game right now, man. Or like they're the kind of human guardrails in your life where they'll lift you up when you need it, pull you back when you need it. And people that are going to be like, hey, I'm going to speak life into this person. I'm going to go alongside them, because you built up relationships where you can be authentic and vulnerable with people when things hit the fan.
Yeah.
Number three is when you have those two things, you're able to make a choice in your circumstances. Basically what you're going to do is you get to control the reaction after it happens. Mike, we've talked about it. You've gotten to control and react and choose the right way when those two things are aligned. And instead of rigidity, you've got mobility, because you're making a choice. You've got mobility because you're saying, I know that there's some circumstances and obstacles in my life, but I'm not gonna give them the choice. I'm gonna make the choice to start moving on and find opportunities despite the circumstances or obstacles, or for me, finding the opportunity within the obstacle. Every single day I get in the wheelchair, and I've got to make a choice to get in the wheelchair. And over 17 years, I've realized that the chair isn't the obstacle. The chair has been the miracle and the opportunity for me to go out and pursue my passions and my purpose in life. And every single day, it's a choice. It's a choice we make every day. It's not just a one-time thing. If you want to lose weight, you're not making a choice to put the cheeseburger down for one day and then that's it. It's every single day. It's every single day we make that choice. It's every single day we put our hope and faith in the Lord. It's every single day that we say, you know what, let's have good people around us. Let's have motivated people around us, and people that we can speak into their life. They can speak into our life and be guardrails for each other.
Joe, Mike, you mind if I jump in?
No, go ahead, please, Carl.
Right out of Think and Grow Rich. I'm a big Think and Grow Rich guy, and that's all about mindset. And what you're talking about is, and I understand it. We've all had things happen in our lives, and it's about choices, right? And it's about, you don't have to wait for something dramatic to happen. And so many people go through life and they think that their circumstances, they didn't go to the right college, or they didn't grow up in the right area, or their parents didn't have enough money, or whatever it may be. And they go through life thinking that that's just the way it has to be. And there's no choice. There's no choice for them. And that's not the case. And then, of course, and again, not to minimize at all, what happened to you, because it's incredible that you've been able to do what you've been able to do. But I think one of the lessons and the inspiration that I want people to take away from your story is, that our lives are such a miracle. There's such, it's just unbelievable that we're actually able to be on this phone call. And until you realize that, whatever hand you've been dealt, whatever hand you've been dealt, when you start to realize how miraculous your life is, you start to look at life differently. So I really want people to get that your situation and what you've done with your situation should inspire everybody to wake up in the morning and get in whatever wheelchair they happen to have, and not blame and not
Yes.
just quit. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in real quick here too. Thanks, Carl. I appreciate that. You said some really good stuff. And here's the deal, Joe. I'm really glad that you brought this up and that it's a choice every day, right? Because you can't just make a choice that one day that you woke up in the hospital and said, "Oh, I'm good. I'm good. It's going to go." Every day you got to get up and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to beat this thing today." It's been the same thing, whether hey, look, we all know that I've got a little stumbly past. I spent a little bit of time in prison, and every day I had to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get through this. I'm going to beat this. And so whether it's somebody who got divorced or somebody who's got challenges with kids or addictions, you know what? Get up every
Yeah.
day, make a choice, make a better choice today than you made yesterday. Joe, you said to put positive people in your life, positive influences. Take that stuff in and build your life to a new, right? Go ahead,
Yeah.
sir.
No, I think it's you guys both brought up some good stuff there where it's not don't wait for the darkest valley to start making those choices. You don't have to wait for the rock, someone's like, oh, so they just got to hit rock bottom and they'll be better. And it's like, no, like sometimes rock bottom is just dying. Like that's like you don't have to wait. A lot of people are waiting, and I love, Moose, what you brought up with, I didn't go to the right college. And I was just speaking to a guy the other day. He has a spinal cord injury, different function than I do, but went to Stanford and Yale and Michigan doctorate school, like just a phenomenal background on colleges. And I found myself a little bit going like, man, this dude is like, wait, like, oh, I mean, I think I'm probably way smarter than I am, but like, I was going, like, a lot of times we want to compare, the comparison factor thing, and it ends up causing this fear of failure and these insecurities to pop up. And it's like, stop comparing yourself to the other person. I mean, social media is there where we all do it. We're scrolling down, and it's a physical dopamine reaction to some things that happen, or some depression that happens when you don't get the right dopamine hit. And it's this comparison factor of their life's better than mine. And then on the opposite things, like sometimes when I'm speaking to crowds and audiences, they'll come up and say, you're so inspirational. And my response is, what inspiration did you get to cause change in your life today and tomorrow and the next day? Because if I'm there to be cheap, I'm not anyone's inspirational porn. I refuse to be anyone's inspirational porn where they're just going to look at me in life and like, oh, Joe's in a wheelchair and my life's way better than, like, because that's what happens a lot is either on the positive or the negative, we'll look at it and be like, well, I'm it's the keeping up with the Joneses syndrome. I've got a better car than them, better house than them, so life's good. Or the man, I gotta get a little bit farther than Johnny, a little bit farther than, and I'll be all right. And the comparison factor leaves us, and we're all in the same lane, and you're not even growing as a person because you're in this mindset of like, I got to be a little bit better than this person, a little bit, instead of really living out your purpose for who God's made you to be, with your unique gifts, with your unique talents, and being able to mold those into something beautiful. So I think both those things just, lit a fire. I think it's a trap a lot of people get themselves into.
How much of it comes down to acceptance, Joe?
Yeah, I think, we've got to be realistic with where we're at. Realistic with, for me, right away, I had to be realistic. I'm this 19-year-old kid, and I'm laying in this hospital bed, and things aren't going to change overnight. I believe in prayer and healing, and and it didn't happen. And so a lot of times, and I love that, like it's acceptance of where you're at, and then like you can believe in something and wait for something, but do it expectantly. If you're applying for a job and you're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to pray about it, and something will pop up. No, you got to apply. You got to get a good resume. You've got to be ready to go. You've got to buy an interview. If it's Zoom now, at least top half, like, and you got to be waiting with expectancy. A lot of times people fall into this trap of, hey, I like life isn't good, and I'm going to wait for it to get better, and I'm going to be passive about it. And then you just sit there stuck.
Yeah. Let me reset the room real quick here. I just want to thank everybody for being here this morning. This is Multifamily Unplugged. Normally, we are delivering some multifamily content. And this morning, we have Joe Delagrave on, just talking about mindset and how our life can change in an instant. But if you're live on Facebook, thanks for being here today. If you're live on Clubhouse, this is a listen in only room this morning but we're here every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. If you're on Zoom with us, if you have a comment or a question for Joe, throw it in the chat. I appreciate everybody being here today, and just look forward to, kind of hearing how we walk through the pain. Hey, you don't have a Cubs shirt on, do you? It's not a Cubs sweatshirt, is it?
Oh, I do. Yeah. You
What am I
Sox,
gonna
you
do?
Sox fan, Mike?
I am a Sox fan. Jeez, Louise.
Joe, you blew it, man. You were doing great until you just showed the Cubs. The Cubs.
I tell you what, my dad, my grandpa and father grew up on the north side, and then my mom's side, my grandfather was from Iowa, and they just picked their team there. But he was a big Cubs fan. I grew up watching Sandberg and Dawson and Grace and all those guys on WGN. So that yeah.
That's back.
WGN did a good job spreading the word. Hey, you know what? I just want to comment on what you said. You know, I worked with Bob Proctor for a long time. He was the main guy in the movie The Secret. I don't know if you saw that movie or not. And you know, I was actually with him when he filmed that in Aspen, Colorado. And after I saw it, I said, Bob, you know, I get it. You know, the law of attraction. They talk about, you know, put up the dream boards, and you wish and you hope and you believe and you have faith and all that kind of stuff and what's going to happen. I said, but there was something missing. He said, yeah. He said, they forgot about the law of action. I said, what do you mean? He said, the law of attraction is the universe working on you. He said, the law of action is you working on the universe. He said, those two things go together. Nothing's going to happen unless you do the action, right? And that's, I think you were pointing to a moment ago.
Yes.
So Joe, do this. So we're kind of getting down on time, and you know me, I could talk to you for a couple hours. Let's talk about life in a wheelchair and the Olympics and family and how all that is for you today, and where you're at today, and how you try to deliver hope to others.
Yeah. So kind of how life's went, and I love that you brought that up, Moose. Law of action. And I think words are very powerful. Goals, dream boards, vision, all those are really powerful, but without action, they're just dreams. They're just daydreams. They're just a bore. Like if you don't act on it. So for me, it's like, a lot of people ask, how'd you get from the hospital bed to being a Paralympian? How'd you get from that? And it didn't happen overnight. Right. And when we're on our path towards whatever goals we have, whatever dreams we have, it takes action. And as we're stepping up the ladder towards those lofty goals, there's going to be failures in those moments. For me, like I had to figure out how to put my socks and shoes on, and I had to figure out how to dress myself, how to eat, how to live life in a wheelchair independently, and that took years. And a lot of times when we had that comparison factor going on, and I call it the impact meter, when we're looking at the impact, are we making an impact? Are we getting closer? Are we chiseling our way towards that goal? And there's times where it doesn't look like we are. There's times where it's just like, man, I'm not getting to where I want to be. And we look at the impact meter and we let that decide if we're going to keep moving forward. And the visual of, when you're climbing that ladder, you might fall down a step or two and you're going, gosh, it's still so far away. And a lot of times we forget to pause and look back. My bottom is that 19-year-old kid laying in the hospital bed. And there's a lot of steps along the way. There were steps of going back to school, steps to get my master's, steps of figuring out how to be independent, steps of marrying my wife and having kids. And when something bad happens, I like to pause and look back on where I was, a 19-year-old kid paralyzed and scared out of his mind of what was next. And when you look back and get a little perspective, I think a lot of times you get motivated to continue on. And so there's a lot of lessons in there, and I've absolutely lived out a life in the last 17 years that I could not have fathomed laying in that bed, where I'm blessed to be a husband, blessed to be a father. That's first and foremost in my life. But playing 13 years in the national team, wearing USA across my chest, when I thought the ceiling was Division II football, riding buses around the Midwest, playing Division II football, and to see where I'm at now has been because of faith. It's been because of my circle of influence, and it's been because I've made choices along the way to not let my circumstances or obstacles define me, but my reaction to them, my character and reaction to those choices. And so it's been an amazing ride for me. I can't wait to see what's next in my chapter, and just really appreciate you guys being able to give me the space to chat about it today.
So, you know what? What are you grateful for right now today in your life?
It's funny, but I keep coming back to this wheelchair. I'm grateful to have mobility, physical mobility, to be able to move around, but getting in this wheelchair has really caused me to live a life where I just couldn't have imagined it. And a lot of times I think people look at a mobility device and think something's wrong. But gosh, like, you think back even 50 years, they didn't have a cure for, they didn't have a way for spinal cord injury patients to even live through maybe a month, 2 months, because of some of the health advances with bowels and bladders. And they didn't know about autonomic dysreflexia and getting everyone stable. Of course, there's wheelchairs and stuff, but the advancements in mobility devices, the advancements in the healthcare industry, has really allowed me to live a life that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Carl, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
You know what? Really just from waking up. Waking up. I'm pushing 60 years old. Just waking up every day. You know what I mean? And looking out. And it's a gloomy day in Chicago. And I know a lot of people are going to be, oh, it's gloomy and they're depressed and everything else. And I tell them, listen, I said the sun's up there. You just can't see it. It's behind the clouds. Or if it's raining, it's liquid sunshine. So for me, it's that. And I, Mike, I have 3 teenage kids. I'm divorced, but I have an excellent relationship with my ex-wife. My daughter turns 16 in a couple of days, so we're all going to go out as a family and go have dinner. And that's just, those simple things in life, that you just, it's very easy to be grateful, and Mike, I have my gratitude rock. Joe, if you ever meet me, everywhere I go, I have a gratitude rock, which came right out of The Secret. And I keep it with me, and it's in my pocket all the time, because every time I touch it, subconsciously, I'm grateful. And that's, it's those little things to be grateful for.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, I'm grateful that I had this opportunity this morning. I always think that in my gratitude, when I do, and gratitude today is a huge thing, right, in my life. And I really believe that in people's lives, it needs to be a huge thing, because there's so many things that we could take for granted or could look bad, but being grateful and having a grateful heart just opens us up to so much more. So, I think that I read a book years ago called A Thousand Gifts, 1,000 Gifts. And the crux of the book was this woman got challenged by her friend, because she was in a really bad place, to write 1,000 things she was grateful for, and to get a journal and put it on the kitchen counter. And she did that. And it changed her life. And then this book was written about all those things she was grateful for in that book, or in the journal that she wrote. And it just got me on this track of writing things every day. And I think that's really what we need to do, is write it out every day. Write 3 things.
Well, Mike, you said the word need. We don't need that. It's a question of, do you want to do it, right? I mean, you don't need to do it, but the question is, do you want to do it? I mean, do you want to be grateful for your life and grateful for things in your life and the people in your life, or not? I mean, it's really a choice. And, Bob always used to say an attitude of gratitude. He said, that's a great, listen, if you get up every day and make your bed and just stop for 30 seconds and just say what you're grateful for, your whole day will shift.
Yeah.
Right. It's an attitude of gratitude, but you got to want to do it. Right. I mean, you don't need to do it. A lot of people go through their lives never being grateful for anything. You don't, and they feed themselves and everything else. But when you want to do it, it takes on a totally different dimension.
Yeah. So very true, Carl. Thanks for clarifying that. So anyhow, Joe, any last thoughts? Any think you help us wrap this up this morning?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk with you guys, and learned a lot from you guys as well. And just great meeting you, Moose. Mike, thank you as always. And no matter what your past is, no matter what your circumstances or obstacles are, you get to have a choice. You get to choose. And I think when we remember that and look in the mirror and go, okay, we get to choose, it's a powerful thing where we still get a choice in our future.
Have you written your book yet?
Working on it right now. Working on it. It's called for me, I have a term called permanent victory. Being an athlete and having identity in sports, a lot of times we let the scoreboard define if we're a winner or a loser. And I'm on this journey of understanding permanent victory and what makes life victorious. And a lot of times I think it ends up with being significance over success. Being significant, us having this conversation for me is significant. Someone on the outside might not see it as being successful, but we're having significance in each other's lives today. And I think that's something that's really cool. So thank you.
I love it. Put me on the list for that. I'd love to read it when it's done.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, so if anybody wants to get a hold of you, Joe, we knew you're a public speaker. You love doing podcasts. You love giving back and providing value for people. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, I got a website, joedelagrave.com, JoeDelagrave.com. Over on Instagram at jdelagrave14. And yeah.
Awesome. So listen, if I had to come up with 3 words from today as we wrap this up: choice, acceptance, and gratitude. And I think that, we could all look inside and take a look at our lives, and it's all that choice. How do we move forward, right? We could stay stuck or move forward. So, hey, Carl, as usual, thanks for being here. I know that you're out with the kids. Don't do too much trick or treating or eat too much of that candy. We know that what that'll do for you Monday morning. So,
no problem, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Joe, and keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for being on. As always, grateful. And anytime you want to come back and talk about multifamily, we're here. So you're always welcome. And love seeing you around on Clubhouse or wherever else. So we'll run into you here somewhere soon. So
sounds great.
Right.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Carl.
Everybody, thanks for being here. Multifamily Unplugged every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time. We're glad that you're here today, and we will look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great week, everybody.